Into the Nexus is a production of amove.tv. Bookmark amove TV for other great video games and esports podcasts. Into the Nexus is sponsored by listeners like you via patreon.com/ITN. Welcome back, everybody, to Into the Nexus, the podcast all about Heroes of the Storm. I'm Garrett Weinzierl. Kyle Fergusson is joining me as always, and joining us for his once-a-month triumphant return to this here podcast, Mr. Jeff Kanata. Welcome back, sir.
I'm kind of against the thing that's happening in the zeitgeist with the pod, calling it the pod.
That's why I added cast at the end, because I was like, "Ooh, no, that sounds stupid. Abort."
I appreciate you doing that. I don't support this. The pod is the device. The cast is the thing. But it's kind of happening, right? Pod Save America is kind of doing it, I think.
Also, now you're making me want to go down the rabbit hole of it's not really a pod anymore, Jeff, unless you are starring in Baby Driver.
No, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
But regardless of all that, I'm very happy to be here, guys. How's it going?
It's actually, to be honest, just get it out of the way in case any of this creeps into the show. Kyle and I had the worst day of Heroes games I think we've had playing together in recent memory for me.
Oh, no.
Yeah, we played.
It was rough out there.
What did we play today, Kyle? Like 6 games?
Yeah, I think we went 1-5.
Yeah, 1-5 was our record today. And
were the 5 losses particularly brutal losses?
They were exhausting. They were absolutely exhausting. The best way I can, I'll pull in something else from this week that also involves Kyle. I haven't worked out in a very long time. Kyle and his lovely wife Kristen work out a decent amount. Kristen even more than you, Kyle. And you both have been like, "Hey, just call us on Skype one day. We'll run you through a routine." So I finally took you up on that offer, and we went and did that. And I'm still sore, and it's been 3 days. Like the first day after, I felt like I was poisoned, and then the last 2 days just been super sore. And that's kind of how I felt at the end of today's Heroes games. Only I didn't feel like I accomplished anything.
It was a bit rough out there. I mean, you know that I could make workout analogies all day about Heroes. I love the dojo-ness, the focus that working out has given me. It's fixed my diet because I'm not going to lift heavy things when I'm eating crud. It's fixed my sleep schedule because I'm damn tired at the end of the day. And all that sort of, discipline, samurai sitting there doing calligraphy kind of stuff makes you a better Heroes player in the end.
I just want to know how a Skype workout works exactly. Do you set up the cam?
Yeah, I just brought my laptop into the room with my workout mat and was like, "All right, we're doing this." Yeah.
Fair enough.
And it's it was a good step, and it's something that doesn't get out there enough. In fact, because we were doing weights on Kristen and I ends, and we had Garrett doing body weights, and I feel like in the background of those videos, when the guy's being like, "How's it going, Joseph? Yeah, sweet. Brittany, straighten your back. Yeah, sweet. And he's just going around visit. Like, they need a dude who's dying on the ground. They need like a stickly man who's just sweating buckets, never sweat a day in his life. So we can have someone in that room we can relate to. Problem is, of course, the longer you do that, the less you are that person. And if they rehearse it for 3 months, there's no longer that guy rolling on the floor dying anymore.
Well, you guys may be too young to remember Richard Simmons, but that was kind of his jam. He had average people in his videos, overweight people even, people who were just trying to make it through. And there was a charm in that. It was a little crazy as he was, but his videos were always that like, "We're just trying to make it. Here we go. Okay."
And that's exactly how I felt coming out of my Heroes games today. Only Richard Simmons is always happy, even at the very end when he looks like he jumped in a pool and then got back out while still clothed and continued working out. I was just sweaty and defeated.
And something else we can learn, right, is let's all be Richard Simmons in our Heroes games.
Yeah, stay positive till the bitter end. Find something to latch onto to say, all right, this didn't work out, but you know what did work? That. Maybe more of that, less of this. Let's keep moving.
But the system can help us out here. And one of the things I would love to see in Heroes is not just some sort of you died less feedback, but actually points. Those are the things that we were battling for at the end. And when Garrett went for his last round of push-ups and fell flat on his face, exhausted, we cheered him. We couldn't be more happy, Kristen and I, because it means you gave your all to the very end and you collapsed in a pool of your own sweat, and that's phenomenal. And every day, working out is basically a series of losses. You're trying to up that weight. You can't that day. You do even worse than you did last time. But that's incredible because you know what? You missed a meal and you weren't on your protein goals and your macros were off.
Yeah, it's my macros. That's the problem. My macros and cheese is the problem.
It's very true, though. Just like a StarCraft economy, just like soaking XP, you're not going to make a team out of nothing. Just like working out, you got to eat the foods that build the muscles. And so you have the fuel to spend. And that's, I think, what ultimately tilted Garrett and I throughout today's games is the fuel wasn't being made, or it was being overmade in certain areas. For example, we had a Asmodan, Sonya, Zul, Li Ming, myself, Garrett was Azul here, and a Rexar. So outside of lane clear man, spell thrower lady, was an Asmodan, Rexar, and Sonya. All three of them believed they were king of camps, and ultimately deathballed as 3 on top of every camp on the map and never got anything done because I'm going to do this. You guys have the team fight. So there was a loss of jobs. There wasn't the economy needed to make a game function in the first place.
Yeah, and if I'm being honest, I think that set the tone for all of our games today because after that, every game I noticed somebody murking all the time. And I'm trying to work it back. However, that last game with that Samora who went in just being like, I'm just going to camp the whole time. It's just like, oh, God, I'm trying so hard.
I had that same thing. I had a Samura who was like, hope you guys can hold down the 4-man because I'm going to be murking the entire game. It's like, don't do that.
Yeah,
maybe
please.
Participate sometimes.
Yeah. So it's you got to pull a Jeff, right? Just got to stay positive. Don't die. Do your best. And sometimes your best isn't good enough. And our best was not good enough today, Kyle. And I think we let ourselves get into, I know I'd let myself get into a mental state that probably shouldn't have been. And if anyone was listening in on it, we didn't stream it. This was just us having a meeting while playing games. I think they probably would have heard because I think our in-between, like, one more game things, like, they sounded painful. Like, you were just like, are you out? And I'm like, no, I'm not.
I mean, one of the things you can do for yourself there is say, let's get a good game. Never say, let's get a win. That's a dangerous spiral to go down. But also, I mean, let's talk about Quick Match for a moment here, because we have now experienced a week's worth, 2 weeks maybe, of the non-mirror matchups. And they're brutal. And that's interesting.
That's not what I would have expected, because I was one of those people that hates mirror matchups and would avoid Quick Match like the plague to prevent mirror matchups. And so I was thinking this was going to be a wonderful salve.
Yeah.
I'm still getting mirror matchups too, by the way. It's still happening. It's just not as prevalent.
Right. I mean, when a Garrosh gets put in, it's not going to bust it buns to fix for you. But what could be happening beforehand is actually Jeff here is a better right wing than the enemy bright wing, and he had a higher chance to win because of this. People are saying they're getting countered, which it just means that you pick 4 other heroes, and the one you got, those 4 heroes and the one you got are not on the enemy side. So there's likely to be one of those bizarre counters. But we are seeing huge climbs in things like Butcher, Zul, Asmodan, Samuro, Rexar, Murky getting above 50%. In fact, in Grandmaster right now, Murky's getting banned on Garden of Terror because he's such a force there. How bizarre. Nazebo, I mean, a lot of push power, right? But these numbers are climbing really high. And without a perhaps OP Samuro to take some of these characters down a notch, like Zul, Samuro, Rexar, these guys who get away at the end of the day, things are running rampant.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I only noticed it really today, the mercenary thing specifically. So I wouldn't say it's a pandemic, but that many games in a row with people focusing on mercenaries so heavily was just weird. And I was personally very bad at adjusting to it. But I'm going to pull out of that dive and talk. I want to talk about something I saw today that made me really happy and usually doesn't. A subreddit, specifically the Heroes subreddit, just brought me joy today. First off, because one of the top voted things on the Heroes subreddit today was a suggestion from user Astrogath. that anytime Abathur clones an ally that has a Zerg version of a skin of that hero, it should be the Zerg version of that hero. So Butcher or Anubarak, who both have Zerg skins, when Abathur clones them, they should be the Zerg version. This filled me with joy, and I want this in the game.
Yeah. There's so many little things like that would be wonderful, but I feel like those teeny tiny things are so minor they might be, beneath the team to even spend energy and resources on. But man, that would be cool.
Mm-hmm. You could also get infested Tychus in there.
The one that I heard, I may have even brought this up to you guys before, but the one that I heard that I thought was so wonderful, I really like the piggy bank mount, and I always thought, or somebody had suggested, and I thought this was brilliant, that when Diablo selects the piggyback mount, he stays in his crawl chase mount thing, but the pig is running ahead of him, away from him all the time, so it's like he's chasing this pig.
That's adorable. I like that a lot.
That would be a lot of visual clutter, considering they're worried about adding a little healing icon over everybody right now, or adding it back in. But yeah, that would be amazing. I'd be okay with that. The first time I saw Cho'Gall mount up and just hold the horse, I was just
that's one of those things where your mind starts going of like, okay, well, if they're willing to do that, here we go. Let's gloves are off. Let's think of some fun, silly things to do.
Yeah, and honestly, the hero subreddit, I think they were on a hot streak today, because there was also a post there requesting a spectate feature, which has come and gone. We've talked about it on this show, and it's definitely shown up on that subreddit a few times, but I saw it again today, and I have not thought about how much I want a spectate feature in a while, and I'm just here to say I still really want one. It would be so good for the game. I can't tell you how many times I get in, there's somebody I want to play with, and they're like, 15 minutes into a game, and that's the time, right? That's the time where you're not sure, should I wait or should I queue up? And so I would just like to watch the game and just hang out while I wait for my friends.
Yeah. Even better than that would be the iPad Spectate app, where I can just, I'm not even home. I can just pull up my app and watch some games.
Like a Heroes app. Well, I guess you can do that in Hearthstone already, but you can also play the game. But just the Heroes companion app, where the only thing you can do is it has BattleNet chat function, and you can spectate games.
That'd be amazing. I would love that. The other thing that I want, guys, have any of you tried the Dota 2 VR spectate mode?
Jeff, Kyle, and I are but humble video gamers. We do not have a VR headset.
Well, I'm here to tell you, it is mind-blowing. And if I know it's not even on Blizzard's radar at all, but every time I've ever had a sit down with the devs, I've brought it up to them because it is truly glorious. I'm not here to talk about Dota, but I if you haven't had a chance to try it, if you have a Vive, load up Dota 2. I don't even play that game, but you are hovering above the battlefield. You have all kinds of scale options. You can shrink down to be the same size as any of the characters on the battlefield, or rise above it and watch them like tiny little chess pieces. You can see other people watching the game at the same time. You see their head and hands, and so you can wave and interact with them. There's like a control room that you can go to. I could go on and on and on. It is incredible, and I want it for Heroes so bad.
All right, I'm sorry. I've got a break right here. I want to deconstruct everything Jeff just said in a meta fashion. First off, which is, I just find it hilarious that folks in the chat room are yelling, Jeff's talking about VR again, because I am a big fan of Jeff's DLC podcast, and that's a meme over there. But the other is, I would like to sit on my porch, Jeff, even though I know you are older than I am, and tell you to get off my lawn, because Kyle and I have been doing this thing right here for almost 400 episodes, if you include StarCast. And back in the day when we were talking about StarCraft, we played Dota 2. The first international came around, and we were like, man, why can't we spectate StarCraft eSports in client? That means, if you're doing the math, that Kyle and I have been crying for an in-game spectate feature in any Blizzard game for the better part of 7 years.
Well, sadly, this game has the same engine as that game, and it sounds like that just was never built into the engine, and it would take massive restructuring of the way the engine works to even make it happen. So I think we can talk till we're all blue in the face, but it ain't coming.
I agree. I agree, sadly, because that would be so spectacular to spectate, but alas, it's I don't think it's in the cards, or at least it's not. It's certainly not in the engine.
Right.
And Kyle, I kind of rolled over you. Did you have anything you wanted to add? I apologize.
Oh, no worries. The international, of course, was incredible. If we can translate just one thing that doesn't have to be in-engine, require any, programming for us at home anyway, I want to see that holographic stage. That is such a cool CNN feature, and I know it's hokey, but the fact that us at home saw the cameras sweeping around the stage and their picks were materializing in the middle, like some sort of football line, that's incredible. And let's get this 2017 in there.
Yeah, man. I'm all for that. We should also pay the winners $20 million. That would be nice.
Yeah, well, that does, I think, have a bit of an impact.
Yeah.
More in-game ways to support teams, please. The bits are fine, but just give me something in the shop. Thanks. I'd appreciate it. So, yeah, good to know everyone here wants a spectate feature and that we all have pretty much given up on it ever actually coming into the game.
Well, here, I've got something sane. I've got something sane that I can request from the Heroes team. Vala. Guys.
She's in the game. Good news, she's in the game.
She's in the game.
I know, she's been in for a while. In fact, she's the first hero I ever owned thanks to the Reaper of Souls promotion. That was a free-to-play or a given hero before this game even came out.
Right.
This past week, an Ariel was being selected. I said, hey, Ariel, why don't I Zul'jin for that? Enemy team got Vala. They wrecked us. And I came to the light. The last episode, Dunk Train said he plays Vala. He doesn't particularly enjoy it. And I said, well, darn it. If there's a man that's playing Vala and doesn't want to, I need to start doing this. So I had at the Vala this week to great success, making that win rate go back up. But there's no skins. There's no monster skins. So I know exactly what I want. Iron Man Vala. Iron Vala. When she does a front flip, do those feet jets. Have her little fists have little bullets that come out of them. You know? When she strafes, shoulders open up and mini missiles fly everywhere. Like, that's a fantasy I can get into.
So your issue with Vala is all in presentation.
A bit. I'm also really, really sensitive to things that are being done easier in the world right now. And that's probably because I'm picking Vala. If there is a Vala on the team, I'm kind of expecting maybe even things to get as lame as like ETC, Uther, down the line. Maybe even give me an Uther Ariel, right? But there's always that one guy who wants to jump in with the everything looks great. Let's add a Abathur in there for some reason or another. And with Butcher, really rather running amok right now, the saddest part is when you compare Butcher to Alarak. You look at somebody who charges in with a point and click, kind of finger rolls as much as they can upon engage, gets the kill, picks up the meat, dies, comes out on top. Alarak tries to do any of those things, will always be reset on his power.
Yeah.
Well, it came up today a lot while we were trying to make sense of the loss after loss that we were experiencing, Kyle. Was your whole comment of the players out there who are just murking all the time and not joining team fights? So the one that I think really tilted both of us was the Haunted Mines game, where everyone just wanted to murk. They refused to come help in the mines, and we were always down on skulls every single golem. And that's when you first thought it was just like, I don't understand why these players want to make it more difficult on themselves. So I can see where your head's kind of been in that position for a little bit. I mean, it all comes back to burden of execution, right? Like, why make it harder than it needs to be?
Well, and that's why ultimately I had to give. I love my flavor. I will stand till the end of days if it's a single player game, doing whatever the heck I want. You want to be Dark Souls with fist weapons? Sure, go for it, right? But if I'm picking Zul'jin, it's making the team more difficult to execute. That's a problem. And I'm not Master's material if I can't accept that.
Yeah. And all of this, by the way, this entire conversation we're having is under the guise of your goal is to win and climb. Obviously, if that's not what you want to do, if you're the kind of person that wants to come to this because you just want to play a certain hero or God help you, have fun. You just want to have fun and it doesn't involve playing a meta hero, that's totally fine too.
Well, I'll say this. I'm with you on the Iron Man skin. I love all of the pseudo superhero skins that are in the game. Sonya, Gale Thos, Tyrande. I wish they would just go through and make one for every darn hero in the game. I want sets. Like, sell me even. I'll buy it. I'll give you money for the superhero set of 60 heroes or however many we have in the game right now. You know, that would be amazing. And I think I'm all in favor of those. I dig those, and I think more heroes should have them.
Well, look at the pirate event, or I guess it was Suns Out, Guns Out, that came with a sort of pirate theme in the background halfway through Stukov release, and then they had the Kraken skin, which is actually one of the best skins in the whole game right now because it has its own lore. The Kraken is control of a skeleton. The Kraken is the hero. It's a complete change of who the guy is in a sense. That's awesome. But they also put out all these sprays, and you gotta wonder too, like, design us some sprays, Arctic McBlizzard. And he says, well, yeah, I'd rather be working on these sweet skins like Shark Haka and all these other sweet ideas. And they're like, you're just doing sprays. And he's, you know what? I'm going to make a spray of Shark Haka, and everyone's going to love it. And I'm going to make a Shark Wear Greymane spray, and everyone's going to be begging at the door for these sweet skins that I've come up with.
I like that. His little subversive way to inject ideas into the game.
I would
love it. In their heads. I don't know. I'm a little curious about this right now because Hanamura 2.0, that was a big ship. And to take Hanamura out, that had to hurt. And I don't mean that in like a personal way. I just mean that's a lot of effort, and they put a lot of effort in trying to recover Hanamura before eventually saying no.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And also, I'm a big fan of artist Nick Blizzard, is I believe what you called that artist. That's hilarious. I love that. That's a fantastic theory, Kyle, that the spray artists just really want to be working on skins, so they're putting sprays out that would be awesome skins. I like that. But
well, they're also putting out a lot more, scandalous skins, husband, like waifu kind of skins. And I think if you've seen Overwatch's numbers, I think that is mad important and very good for the game.
I'm not sure how much I want to get into this conversation.
I'm just saying, Illidan posing like McCree on a heart, that gets clicks.
It does. It does. But I would like actual new content, not just new skins.
Can I tell you guys something that's going on in my league, my sorry ass league?
Is that below bronze, or where is that? Where does sorry ass league fall in the spectrum?
I know it's slightly above bronze, but not far. I have seen multiple games where the sentiment in chat, as I'm trying to futilely herd cats into drafting a decent team, the sentiment over and over, multiple games, hey, it's silver, it doesn't matter who you pick. It's silver, it doesn't matter what our team comp is. It doesn't matter. Hey bro, you're in silver, it doesn't matter what heroes we pick.
That would elicit an unpleasant response from me as well. I can
drives me nuts, guys.
I can see. Now I am curious though, because one of the other things we always talk about on the show is play what you actually know how to play. There's always a balance between trying to fill out the comp and also playing something you're actually competent with. Because yes, maybe Ariel is the perfect pick here, but if you are bad at Ariel, you're going to throw the game. So don't pick Ariel.
Right.
So do you think it's straddling that line, or is it?
No, it happens not in like, hey, pick Ariel. It's like, hey, we need a tank. Please don't let this draft end without us getting it. Okay, all right.
Oh,
hey, man, it doesn't matter what we pick. We're in silver. It doesn't matter. All right. Okay, well, that's how we all stay here. Bye.
That's rough. Can you imagine 5-year-olds sitting there playing like tic-tac-toe, and they just draw 3 X's and said, oh, we're both 5.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. We're both 5.
It's so, that's madness, man. Well, I can give you some sanity. If hopefully it was Warhead Junction, a lot of high-end games are being played right now without a tank on Warhead Junction.
You broke me. We're both 5.
we broke Garrett.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, that's fantastic.
And actually, that analogy works on many, many levels. That we're all 5. We're all 5 in silver. Just flinging our poo at each other.
Yeah. That being said, I have had some really fantastic games where it was a unusual comp. It's not what I would recommend going into, and definitely not for winning the morale game of drafting. But
okay, now I have learned that yes, you can win with some weird comps. You don't have to have this cookie cutter template. I'm open to that. I get it. We can alter our play styles, but also, why do you want to make it harder for yourself? Why would you, if your team is built in a certain way and you have last pick, why would you want to just throw in this crazy wild card that doesn't help anybody do anything? I've seen that so many times where the thing that drives me so insane is the guy who's sitting at last pick and has been showing the same character since we all got in. And everybody picked their pick, and we all were happy with how it was going to work out. And at the last minute, he just switches it up to something stupid and insane. And it's like, you showed one thing the entire draft, and you still could pick that. It wasn't banned. It wasn't picked. It was perfect. It was great. It was going to be what we all expected you to pick. But you just like, whoop, guess not. Nope, not that. I'm sorry, guys. I don't come here to just rant, but some weeks, guys. Weeks.
No, man, I'm talking about, like, we lost to a level 7 interaction that my fellow teammates didn't understand. What a shame. Like, I feel horrible at the moment because you're literally saying you can't even get the game that got to the level 7 in the first place. And this is an important thing to know, because if we're sitting in our leagues and we're talking to the majority of players in gold and silver, I mean, this is an important fact of life. I mean, so the basic sort of human reaction that's going on there is likely, if I play something I'm serious about, it's going to hurt more. So let me pick this wacky character that I'll have fun with, even if we're losing. And the toughest thing for me is, let me pick something that is going to be so busy that I don't mind losing. But then you see a complete abandonment of basic ability, knowledge, using something like a minion lane nearby to block stitches. You're so busy wondering what Malthael's level 4 does or what you should pick that you're not doing those basic things anymore. But they walk away, and perhaps sometimes with MVP because they didn't die or whatever.
Right. In the case. Oh, I know, and that validates them in a way that is so infuriating as well. I wonder why that mentality plays ranked at all. Like, why are you even in ranked if that's sort of what you're here for? Like, there's other modes that will allow for that. It's fine, but don't come into our games and all of us are kind of in a serious place and you just go, I'll just do this wacky weird thing and it'll be fun for me. I don't get it.
And it has to be that maybe all of us have done this. We play that quick match. It's amazing. It ends. If there was a good comp on each side, you go, man, I wish that was ranked points, and maybe they queue up after that. But ultimately, I think what we are getting at here is humans are going to human. Yeah. What can we do on Blizzard's side to have that workout moment we talked about earlier, that moment where you say, great freaking job, dude. Like, I know you lost, but here's some, I'm talking to from 195 on a win and 210 on a loss right now. So I'm feeling it. I'm breaking dead even, but I'm going down, right?
Yeah. And the thing that's so difficult about that from a systems perspective is you have to have a game that's very sophisticated in order for it to be able to identify you doing your little niche of goodness in a loss that is a train wreck, right? It's very difficult for a game to be able to give you those plaudits when they're needed, when it kind of doesn't know how to identify you doing a good thing in isolation. Right? You know, if you have a good death or something, the game doesn't know that was a good death. Or if you saved someone at the last minute, even though your team fight was going downhill, but the two of you escaped with your lives because of that cool thing you did, that game doesn't know that, and it's very, very difficult to create a system that is robust enough to identify those things.
Yeah, it would also be like it would also be difficult for it to even know if you quote unquote lost the draft. It gets thrown around all the time. You lost the draft, or you even mentioned minutes ago, Jeff, that the last pick shenanigans of, we thought you were going this one thing, and then you went Medivh, and you're not eSports Medivh. Sadly, you are
every other Medivh.
Yeah, I just did 5 with him so I can take him in Hero League. And so you can't even really build a system there. Like, how does it know? Because yeah, you might have lost that one game with Medivh, but then you could actually pull stats and maybe that exact same comp actually has a winning statistic or a winning percentage in most cases, and you just happen to get the one person that didn't know how to play that. So all of these things are very difficult to address from a system standpoint.
I think it's going to get easier, though, and we're going to look back like antibiotics and say, oh my God, what happened in the past? How did people live? Look at DeepMind. I forget the name of the Dota one, but it was beating pro players at a international showcase. These AIs are getting much better, and they're learning how to play StarCraft, or in this case, a team sport right now. So in the future, and maybe even 10 years in the future, there may be sort of like a secondary computer game running at the same time that it compares your stats to, and maybe through that, it'll understand the draft picks and will have some sort of metric that we can use.
I mean, that would be amazing. And we all know that Blizzard is already teamed up and allowing AIs to learn StarCraft. And I think if that partnership bears fruit, I think you'll see that in all the Blizzard games. But the thing that what you're saying made me think of immediately was, what if there was a trainer where you could, I mean, basically it would put you out of work, Kyle. But basically it's you go back through your replay and the game says, well, the AI tells you, oh, you should have done this here and done that there, or a better option would have been. It literally can point out the things it would have done in your stead.
I would like if it does that too. I would like the idea of having multiple things. Like, here's option A, here's option B, here's option C, which would have been technically more effective to push the game in your favor.
But having said that, I've done a bunch of reading about the Go AI that's beating all the professional Go players and everything. And the thing that's amazing about that is it is not able to express why it did what it did. The developers themselves don't have any sense of why the game did what it did, because they're not programming specific moves in. They're just showing it millions of games, and it learns from those games, and so it evolves, and it's making moves. They're like, wow, I don't know why that would be doing that. And then the AI itself can't tell them why, because in order to explain it, it would have to show them a million playthroughs of why it made that decision.
Right, that's the creepy part too, is they're like, we have Fiend here only going mid because we've only taught him that so far. It's like, well, you're just going to show him top lane and he's got it? It's rather incredible.
Yeah.
Well, I would love to see something like that in the future, but I mean, it's just getting started with StarCraft, so we'll have to see how that shakes out. And in the meantime, hire a coach like Kyle.
Indeed.
Hey, if there's one thing that, if I just want to put a sound file out there that you can play for yourselves, if everyone's dead, you don't need a hearth. That's my message for the week. If there's no danger, don't hearth, because you can keep doing things. You'll get an orb, you'll keep going, it'll be fine.
Oh, all right. That's not what I thought your main beacon thing would be. I thought your thing would be, maybe mercs aren't the right decision.
Well, I mean, that was a frustration from today, but I've actually been going through a lot of my old coaching files. I'm actually going to be going on vacation in about a month here. I'll be closing down my shop until about the holidays then, because I'm going to be working on a pretty large project, compiling 2 years worth of coaching information. And I've sort of been dividing it into what different leagues are really struggling with. And the main thing that Silvers really can do to have an impact today is to just stop hearthing when you get low health or even low mana. Just take it easy and stop casting that random multi-shot, because it didn't do anything. If you clear a lane faster, why? See the effectiveness of those things. Don't get caught in the traffic, right? If everyone's running down a lane, people can space out because they're surrounded by fellow cars. That, I forget, it has a name, but sometimes you're speeding like 80 miles an hour down a highway because everyone around you is speeding and you just lose track.
I don't want to get too far off track and bring up too many things, because I know we have a full boat of things to talk about, but I've brought this up on multiple shows of my own, that I think games like Heroes of the Storm, and really any multiplayer game that has a skill curve like this, it's all about these concentric circles of awareness. And as you get better and better at the game, you expand out your concentric circle of awareness. So the first concentric circle is just you. What are you doing? Don't die. Figure out how to not die. Figure out what your character does. Does he shoot? Does he hit? What does he do? How does he not die? How does he contribute to the team? Then you expand out to your team. What does your team do? What does all the other people do? What does the map do? We expand more. What does the enemy team do? Oh, what are their talents? What are their roles? And so as you learn more, you can and you get each circle under your belt, you can expand that next concentric circle outward until you have a mastery of the entire breadth of the game. I have come to the conclusion that the most frustrating thing that I'm running into being in silver is that I truly feel that I am at a wider concentric circle of awareness than most of the people I play with. And that is extraordinarily frustrating to deal with, because I think many of the people I play with, not everybody in silver, but a lot of people that I play with have not expanded yet to the point of knowing that, hey, they should come down and help me now. Or, hey, look at the minimap. Look where all the action is. Go there. Hang out there for a second because everybody is doing a thing. Go to that. And they're not yet expanded to that circle of awareness to even understand that, hey, I'm being chased by somebody and I'm running right by you. And all you're doing is hitting a bunch of minions. You could help me. But you're just completely unaware of it because you have not expanded your circle of awareness yet. And that is so hard to take when you are, me as I'm playing, am aware, looking at my minimap, am aware of that layer, and my teammates aren't.
I think that's the difficulty. And how do we make that fun? And that's what I'm, trying to process right now. How can we get something extremely basic, like there's a building, it's dividing the lane. One of those houses on Cursed Hollow. If you cast your Flame Strike on top of that house, it is guaranteed to not hit anybody. But I see that all the time in Bronze. This circle goes out, that's half a house, half a lane, and it's guaranteed to hit nobody. How do you make that fun? Diablo Engage, really quite easy to do. You are going to pop your Apocalypse. You will charge that target, pushing them off the Apocalypse pad, and then pick them up, putting them back onto the Apocalypse pad. That is how you do a basic Diablo Engage. And it's very powerful. But how do you teach someone that? How do you get them interested? And then once maybe you have that little nugget in their heads, then maybe the web can start building.
I think all of this is the simplest thing you can do, I think, is not necessarily go and find an actual coach, although once Kyle opens up again, I would recommend booking him. But just anyone, if you can get a friend, someone, whether you know them personally, whether you've made a friend just through Heroes of the Storm, just get someone to come in and look at what you're doing, be it through a replay or going into a game with you, and they know that you have specifically asked them to watch your play and give you some tips. Just getting away from yourself, having a fresh set of eyeballs is very important, I find. And when you want to improve on any type of video game, I do this all the time on Hearthstone. I try to always have someone come in after a while and look at what I'm doing because I get complacent.
Well, I think another thing you guys have brought up on the show multiple times that I think is true is when somebody does that Diablo Engage to you and it kills you, man, there's nothing that motivates me more to want to do that to somebody else than I got done to me. So learn from the stuff that happens to you and go, oh my God, that was really powerful. How did they do that? I think that, that can motivate you too.
Yeah, I think it's a great way to put it. Learn, get excited about your defeats as something, as something new to learn. So anyways, let's finally move into the news. That was a extended top of the show discussion.
We're on, boys! Ha-ha! Let's liven up this place!
The moment is upon us.
Yes,
That cut off randomly. Anyways, Gamescom is right around the corner, and we are apparently getting a new hero announced. Or as Kyle put in the notes, only one hero announced. Because if you remember...
making me sound spoiled. But I am. Last year was Machines of War.
Right. I think it's totally fair. And I'm a giant StarCraft fan, and we did a StarCraft podcast together, so whatever, if you want to call us biased or not, whatever, we totally are. But Machines of War was the coolest thing that ever happened in Heroes of the Storm. And now we're just getting one hero announced.
Yeah.
But rumor has it, it's Kel'Thuzad. So let me just wind up, Kyle. Go.
Oh, how can I? We got a third Frostbro, man.
Right. So next time Jeff joins the after show game, we can do Arthas and Uber at Kel'Thuzad.
Exactly.
I love it. I think it's ruining the KT abbreviation forever. That's a bummer.
Yes,
but
yes. But Malthiel Mouth has already ruined it for me. So Rexar, Rhaegar, like one more. It's not going to hurt at this point.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me started on my whole Blizzard doesn't know how to name things thing. You know, Anubarak, Alarak. You know, everybody's in the same. It's like the same group of people named everything in this universe.
Listen, it all goes back to Tolkien, and Tolkien was terrible at it too. So
yeah.
If anything, as a Dungeons and Dragons fan, naming dragons is amazing because you just go Narcaklon the Pops. Oh, you're done.
Narcaklon the Plops. That's good.
That's terrible. No, whatever the case is, Rhaegar, Rexar, by the way, still the one that plagues me the most because they're both orcs. But I'm very excited for it to hopefully be Kel'Thuzad as well. I want to see the kit. I want to know what we're dealing with here. I know, Kyle, I think you mentioned last week with Dunk On that you have a very specific bar of quality to clear, considering his kit back from Warcraft 3. And if he doesn't basically have that kit, that you're going to, I don't know what you'll do, man. Turn into an actual lich and steal the souls of the devs?
Not as much as I will if they release Ana, a non-release Overwatch character who puts people to sleep instead of a Dreadlord who's been putting people to sleep, and that doesn't sound very exciting, for years.
Oh, so Tichondrius?
The hint is, or the rumor abound is our next character and then double Overwatch following that, which does speak to probably just the kits are ready, right? I mean, they're probably starting to save up for BlizzCon a little bit, and you wouldn't I don't think you do an Overwatch character at BlizzCon, and their kits are just so streamlined almost, that I think we're just going to see a lot of Overwatch characters until those are all done.
Wait, why wouldn't you do an Overwatch character at BlizzCon?
I don't think it's the energy that they want, perhaps. I think the Overwatch people go, I wasn't going to play that game anyway. Perhaps. I'm making this up, right? But the World of Warcraft people are people who will visit this game more likely without bringing things back to their own.
I've never thought about it in that fashion.
No?
Yeah.
Maybe that's just my thought on shooters, and you're doing the third-person camera and WoW, and it's strategy team-based.
Yeah,
but then again, Overwatch is almost a MOBA and shooter, so that's just my relationship with shooters. People stick to their shooters. I'm a third-person strategy man. I've gone that way.
Yeah,
I'm applying my own bias.
I personally, I'm not sure they even have that kind of freedom to hold back heroes like that, because I think it really just kind of comes down to, is it ready or not?
Oh, I imagine there's strategy on what's going to be a BlizzCon hero and what's going to be our BlizzCon announcement. I'm sure there is some strategic shuffling that happens there, but a lot of it has, I'm sure, to do with what's ready too.
Yeah.
Well, and what I'm really excited to see with Gamescom is how fast are they on the heels of everything else. We have wanted a Warlords of Draenor event while that was going on, and then we went to the next expansion, right, and kind of quiet again. It seems weird. And we just did the Frozen Throne thing. If it's Kel'Thuzad, first of all, people on the floor go, Hearthstone, Kel'Thuzad, I don't know, seems like a good connection to me. And I just want these big releases that also say and heroes.
Well, I mean, if we're gonna go down that road, a Warcraft event has been sorely missing, I think, from heroes, and it's just surprising. It's the one that I wouldn't think that would be the last Blizzard universe to get an in-game event or just a Battleground period.
That's my guess for BlizzCon, though, is some sort of Warcraft event thing, new map, big deal.
Oh, I mean, if they came out and were just like, all right, here's some new heroes, that all looks good, and now a Wrathy Basin, like everyone just loses their mind. Or Wintergrasp,
awesome.
or not Wintergrasp, Alterac Valley, something like that. Something just insane that pulls on the nostalgia strings quite a bit. But we'll have to see. I'm honestly with the Gamescom being most likely just a single hero announcement, it doesn't surprise me because, I mean, Hanamura wasn't that long ago. It had to be pulled basically from the game. We already know how long it takes them to make a Battleground. So I wasn't expecting a new BG anytime soon.
Do you guys think with the sort of tacit acknowledgement that Hanamura hasn't really worked out, that the next Battleground isn't as outside the box, that it feels a little more traditional MOBA?
I'd go that way, but they're very human on the Heroes team. Saying that a lot today, but
as opposed to...
Or emotional, I should say, even. Not in a bad way, but you can hear on the forums and on Reddit that everyone on that team sits around and reads feedback a lot and really takes it to heart. And I wonder if they feel that heavy pressure from the pros to stop making 2-lane maps. Because I would expect this next one to be 3. I don't see... It seems overly resilient for them to plow on ahead and make another 2-lane map with all the hate from the pro scene that's been received on those types. I mean, we don't even see Haunted. Did we get to enjoy a single non-show match Hanamura? It just feels odd.
Yeah.
Well, I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. It to me, it feels like overall the speed with which feedback reaches the team and then an actual change to the game is made has been pretty damn good with Heroes in the Storm.
I agree. Yeah, for sure.
I think both Heroes and Overwatch are the two that right now over at Blizzard just knocking it out of the park with how they actually manage to sift through the noise of how many people are telling them to do certain things and actually landing on things that improve the game.
But I think what I'm saying is that part of the thing that, in my opinion, makes Heroes so special in the MOBA landscape is how far they're willing to push the envelope with making it push up against what we consider to be a MOBA, you know, and they've done a lot of stuff in the Brawl arena with, you know, kind of having crazy ideas there. But I liked the fact that there were these maps that are just so bizarre and different from what you'd expect. And I wonder if maybe they overreached slightly and that you'll see them pull back from that and it'll feel a little bit more traditional, at least the next one.
Let's take that reach too, though, because we have an email later today from John who says he really enjoys the Escort Defend Brawl right now. And you know what? It's beautiful. It's Hanamura. It's very Overwatch. The payload advances and hits checkpoints. It feels like a lot of fun, but it's so wildly beyond anything like a normal MOBA. I struggle. I don't know. I think it should be in a different game.
Interesting.
I can't speak to that. I just find, do you think Hanamura pushed the envelope, Jeff? Because my issue with it is I don't think it did. I think it's just kind of boring to be frank.
Well, I mean, I think it just like Towers, that, you know, the idea of a map where you kill the core by never punching the core is a, you know, pretty non-MOBA idea, and Heroes is really the only game doing that in the space. So just that alone is weird and different. And I think I was listening to your discussion last week, and I think you guys hit on so much of what I feel about Hanamura, which is just never satisfying. None of what you do on it is particularly exciting. But the solution is, well, it should have been more like a MOBA where I run into their core and smack it with my fists. You know, so that's kind of why I brought it up, is like, do you think that they're going to make a much more traditional feeling map in the sense of what we expect from MOBAs?
And it's interesting, too, to look at the Eastern Clash, which happened this past weekend, and perhaps how their cultures, their framework, their infrastructure of esports allows people to practice, or maybe just encourage them to practice as much as they do. Here in NA, we seem to have a really big struggle in getting people to practice enough. And what we're hearing from pros is that they don't want to learn so many darn maps. They want to go to Cursed Hollow. They want to become a master of every nuanced thing on that map. And the idea that they have to change maps is a waste of their time for the pro scene. And that makes sense because it's making things harder for them.
Yeah. Well, and it makes things harder for us too, right? I mean, there's
100%.
much more potential for just pickup games to be sloppy because a person isn't familiar with the map. But I also think that's what I love about this game. I love that variety and that wild fluctuations of variety. And I don't know what I'm going to get when I load up my, oh, I got that map, cool. I dig that, and I like the fact that they're willing to create maps that are so different from one another. But it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm certainly in the camp of slow it down on the Battleground rotations. I want to spend more time within a single rotation, just to wrap my head around what my stable of heroes should be, and try and grow as a player within that confine while they're still adding a new hero every 6 weeks. Like there's enough. We already have enough balance changes. We already have enough new heroes being added. I don't think we also need Battleground shifted around as quickly as it's happening.
On that, I think we can agree.
Yeah. So, but anyway, let's shift gears and talk about. Let's talk some statistics, because the Eastern Clash took place this past weekend, and as always, we have some interesting stats to look at. So the first up, I loved that MVP Black versus Deadly Kittens set both the longest and shortest record games for this clash. A sub 8-minute Warhead Junction and an over 30-minute Tomb of the Spider Queen.
You should watch these in client. It's really enjoyable. MasterLeague.net has these replays. If you're particularly interested in something like Illidan, watch that Warhead Junction. The decisiveness of MVP Rich. He doesn't even think for half a second if something in his range should be attacked. Yes, it should. And that's why it's an 8-minute Warhead Junction. Like, that is power. And these shorter game times, even this longer game time on a turtley map, perhaps, like Tomb of the Spider Queen, really speaks to their expertise in that region.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I've actually never gone and downloaded a replay, like from a pro event, and actually watched it. I should do that.
It's good, and this is 8 minutes. Like, that's why it's great. You don't want to sit through 15 minutes. You want to play a game during that time, right? But here's something really short that is worth a watch. And
at the very top of the show, we talked about how much we would love to be able to spectate esports events in the client. This is the closest thing at the moment that we can get to that, is going and grabbing replay files, plugging them into our game, and taking a look.
What's the website where you can do that?
MasterLeague.net.
Awesome.
And we got draft stats from the Eastern Clash as well. Out of the 69 heroes in the game, 48 were picked or banned. The unpicked heroes for the Eastern Clash, we talked about the unpicked one for Western last week, were Asmodan, D.Va, Gazlo, Jaina, Johanna, Kerrigan, Lieutenant Morales, Lucio, Murky, Probius, Raynor, Rexar, Samoro, the Butcher, the Lost Vikings, Thrall, Valera, Zul, Zagara, Zarya, and Zul'jin.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of heroes that did not get picked. And if you're over here playing your pickup games, things like Samoro and the Butcher probably sound borderline insane.
And Asmodan even.
Yeah. As with Hanamura being pulled out, I haven't seen as much Asmodan going around. That being said, there's still the I've been calling them the straggler Asmodans.
Stragsmodans. I still see lots of divas, lots of Zuls. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I get the Zul. Yeah, but D.Va? I
Yeah.
don't see her at
People
all
love
anymore.
D.Va. People love D.Va the same way I love D.Va in Overwatch. It's because I don't die.
You just get to keep playing the game.
I just get to keep playing the game. Oh, I'm out of my thing. I'll run away now. Yeah.
Blink you from a distance and then get back in. The most popular heroes, this is both for picks and bans, were Auriel, Genji, Tassadar, and Uther. I don't think that surprised me at all the first time I read that. Nope. Most popular bans were Auriel and Genji. Other popular picks were Rhaegar, Uther, Greymane, Tassadar, and Dahaka. Still not surprising me there at all. Nothing.
So when we combine the two clashes, what we're looking at is an unpicked hero pool of kind of specialists. Asmodan, Gazlo, Kerrigan, Murky, Raynor, Rexar, Samuro, Valera, Zagara, and Zul'jin. And you can't argue there too much. There's not a single person on that list that I would say does a job better than someone else in that role could.
Yeah.
But is that just a function of a high hero pool at some point? I mean, not every... It's just going to happen, right? Isn't it just going to happen?
Oh yeah, I mean, if you look at the unpicked stats from a game like Dota 2, it is they're pretty long lists as well. No, best win rates were Tassadar was on top of the pile, 17 wins, 9 losses, putting him at a 65% win rate. just underneath him are heroes like Illidan, Ariel, Tyrael, all over a 60% win rate with the exception of Tyrael, who dropped just below it.
The only one I've heard out of this group that is in need of nerfs is Ariel from the pros and grandmasters, particularly on the 2-lane maps. They're feeling that is just too oppressive.
Do you think the sentiment or the pushback against 2-lane maps would calm down a little bit if Ariel was reined in?
I don't know. Would we just end up on? I mean, they hate Lucio since he lost his power. But would that just empower Stukov and other sort of AO, maybe Brightwing Stukov, which we're seeing now to negate things like Lunara poisons? I mean, those are really creative picks, and I really enjoy seeing those sort of interactions. But yeah, maybe the 2-lane map just makes us make the same comps again. Then again, I challenge them to show me some talent or some hero diversity on something like Cursed Hollow.
That's a good point. I mean, that is, but I don't know. I like Cursed Hollow being figured out, kind of being set in stone.
Totally. And that's why, to me, it's sad to lose Hanamura, because that was a place for bribers, a place for a number of special things. But I get more enjoyment out of playing that exact same map, and it's called Braxis Holdout.
Interesting.
I prefer Braxis as well. I also like things like Warhead Junction compared to all these 2 lanes that were going on, because I like seeing the skirmishes, and I'd like to see more skirmishes personally.
I mean, I think that's this is whatever. I think that's what Blizzard wants, right? Or wanted. That was the idea behind the Heroes of the Storm, was like there'd be this pool of heroes that are awesome, but then there's a different map, and a completely different pool of heroes are awesome. And I don't know if they've completely managed to make that happen, or if they're even kind of retreating from that ideal a little bit. But the idea of that is cool.
No, absolutely, and I think that's part of the reason you see such pushback against a hero like Ariel, who, if you're on a 2-lane map, that's just a contested hero. Everyone wants it. And then I think, Kyle, you would probably agree with me on this. Then there's just Vala, who just kind of works anywhere. She's the Swiss Army knife that it's kind of irrelevant what map you're on. And to me, I feel like that shouldn't be the case. I don't know how you take someone as kind of generic as Vala and make them more specialized to excel on one map versus another. I mean, I don't know. No, we can't. I was going to say, maybe we look at Raynor, because he's generic. You just don't see him picked at all, period. He just doesn't get played.
It's not just like it's the power spikes on Vala. It's the fact that she has a frontal cone that does AoE splash damage that helps her lane clear. Like, where's the limitation? Is it Monster Hunter allows you to take Merc camps? Okay, so we don't need Gazlo anymore. How weird. But okay, we're going up against an ETC, and I love Raynor's pushback versus ETC. I love that Raynor can take a stun at 16. Well, we'll go Vala with a stun at 10. And that's where the disappointment just reigns over, and why I have gone through my skins and selected a different skin for each type of Vala I want to play. Do I want to play Tychus today? Nope, we're playing Vala, but I'll dress up as close as I can to Tychus.
I love how much theme affects you mentally, Kyle.
I want to win. I love winning, right? And I love seeing high-level play in my games, and that's ultimately what has made me hit this wall. Is, I'm sick of flatlining. I love my heroes. I love my pool. I love Zul'jin. But let's not flatline in Diamond 4 anymore. It's go time, and Vala's getting the business done.
Fair enough. I mean, that's how you've climbed in the past, was finding what worked and just sticking with it. It's just in the past, it was this kind of special, I'll say it, snowflake pick for you. You got to be, you got to be that Tychus that no one was playing. The pick was always up, and you got to carry yourself with that. And, well, not carry yourself, but you know what I mean.
To be fair, she's completely open, because Grandmasters have been toting, and again, it's that leak from the top, so it's taking a while. I'm sure maybe in 2 weeks we'll be seeing the bronze Tyrandas, but that's what everyone dives for right now, is Zuls and Tyrandas, and Vala's just sitting there, open for the moment.
It's a world I want to live in. Still quite contested in my league, but I'm glad at least, even if you're not getting to play the heroes that you want to play, at least you're seeing the results that you want to see, and that's always good.
Encouraging.
The other stats I really liked from this Reddit thread, which you can find over on the Heroes of the Storm subreddit, was the Eastern versus Western clash stats. I liked pitting them kind of against each other. So the thing I liked the most were the heroes that we didn't see picked in the Western Clash that were picked in the Eastern. And while they still weren't picked a lot, we did actually get to see A Nova and Artanis, Cho'Gall. That's cool.
With a Nova in that comp.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not cool. But
Jeff, you still hating Nova?
I hate Nova. Take her out of the game.
Oh, well, that's strong words.
Hate her on my team, hate her on other teams. There's no such thing as a good Nova.
I bet if we went through all your games, Jeff, we could find a few where Nova was on your team and did a lot of work and led to a win.
Hey,
Yeah.
That's perfectly fine. We all have our things. I play every weekend with Kairazim main in Hero League, Gorath, and I just can't. I don't get it. I don't want it healing me. I don't understand what I want. And they're like, I got it, 7-side strike. And I'm like, then where's the... You were the role. You were the chosen one, Anakin.
Not surprising, Ariel is top in all regions at the moment. And yeah, just reinforcing everything we kind of thought we knew for the most part. It wasn't that big of a difference in overall meta. Like double support composition was still the most popular between all regions. So Dunk was right when last week he said he didn't expect to really see that big of a difference at the Eastern Clash. So and
that first pick win rate thing comparison is the one that blows my mind.
Oh,
that in the Western Clash the first pick win rate is 42%, and in Eastern Clash it's 54%.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, that's
a massive swing.
Yep.
Kyle, decisiveness.
Do you think
that's what we saw throughout the entire Eastern Clash? Is guys who knew when the situation arose exactly what they do about it, and even if it wasn't the right choice and it lost the game, they still reacted with that level of decisiveness. There's no lingering double support dances. If there's double support, they are both auto attacking and in there.
That makes me want. Obviously, I don't have them, but I want to see just the first pick win rate for Fnatic. See what it looks like. Well, before we move into basically the end of the show will be Mailbag. Our strategy comes to us from an email, and obviously our emails will all be from itncast@gmail.com. Let's thank our patrons over at patreon.com/ITM, which is where you can go to support this here podcast, which brings monthly guest hosts like Mr. Jeff Kanata and Dunk Train back on the show, and also supports Kyle and myself, as this is part of what we do for a living. So on this episode, we'd like to thank Andrew T., Wesley C., Bo D., oh my God, it's Bodacious. I'm just noticing this. I thought it was a legitimate last name. If that is a legitimate last name, that's amazing, and I'm sorry for not making you anonymous. Also, thank you to Christoph V. and Robbie L. Thank you all very much for supporting the show. And consider checking out our Patreon if you enjoy Into the Nexus. Now, let's move into our...
It comes from a long line of Daciouses.
A long line of Daciouses? I like that. All right, let's move into strategy.
Choose a talent.
Choose a talent.
Talent? Ha! That seems generous.
Yeah, no clue what that means.
So, again, I'd like to remind everyone, if you want to write into the show, itncast@gmail.com is the place that you may do exactly that. Brenton wrote in, and we figured we would base a kind of philosophical strategy talk around this, which is good, considering... I think our top of the show discussion. He says, what makes this game so compelling, even addictive, to make me want to play it, despite the fact that I don't always walk away from it 100% of the time, feeling like I enjoyed myself? So this is the question that Brenton's putting out there. Is it the loot boxes or some other carrot at the end of the stick that keeps pulling me back in for just one more game? Is it the gameplay or a social mechanic? Or are the good games just so good that they override the bad ones?
I love that his question is, why am I playing this?
Yeah.
Can someone stop me?
Yeah, but I think we have all hit this point with some game in our life. If you're listening to this, I bet you've hit that point with Heroes of the Storm.
Indeed.
Guarantee it. And I thought this was fascinating, and it's really funny after today, because just the worst losing streak I've had in a very long time in Heroes was today. And I read this question before I entered that abyss of defeat. And my answer hasn't changed. It's just a weird day for me to be answering this question. But I think, Brenton, that what you're experiencing is the hook of competition, just in general. And I think this applies to any competitive activity. I personally was never into sports growing up, surprising absolutely no one listening within the sound of my voice. But it was not a thing for me. So I didn't really catch on to how fun competition can be until later in life when I started playing multiplayer games. And also for me, a bit of a redneck, paintball. Played the crap out of paintball when I started getting in my early teens and finally figured out, oh, now I get it. I get why sports are cool, especially team-based sports, and why they're so successful. And it's the same thing with Heroes, I think. I think your desire to work together with multiple people for a common goal against other people who are actively working against that common goal is I think it's in all of us. I think all of us want to compete with other people against other people and try and prevail, because that's the ultimate opponent is another thinking human being.
Well, and I've been thinking about this a lot recently because I'm sitting on 2,000 dust. I could make a Gul'dan in Hearthstone.
Oh, you're
wild?
I was like, what are you talking about? Dust? Are you talking about Hearthstone? Okay, you are talking about Hearthstone.
Yeah, what am I going to do with a wild Gul'dan demon deck? Yeah, it'd be sweet to play, but I don't get to crush anybody who actually matters, who's working day in, day out, putting that money into the game. I'm a free-to-play player. I want to beat people who are at their prime. So I'm not going to craft Gul'dan. I'm just going to keep playing Standard because that's where I get my enjoyment. It's the human variety that makes MOBAs so intoxicating to me. Every game, it could be the same, but you know what? This game, Illidan stinks, and Tracer's amazing. And in that last game, Tracer was awful, and Illidan's better. Like, those are the sort of varieties, and humans provide that variance that makes these games so compelling.
Yeah, anybody that's ever watched Games Done Quick, which if you haven't, I highly recommend it. Very fun. It's always, they do wonderful streams every season. They give a lot of money to charity. But speedrunners play games that they hone down and hone down and hone down to a one perfect line. You play Mario World 1-1, there is a perfect line to get to the end as quickly as possible, getting all of the coins, etc., etc. No such thing in a MOBA. No such thing in a multiplayer game. It is just like a game of basketball. It's just like any kind of interactive thing with multiple human beings. Every moment is a million decisions, and that's the joy, is all of the things that we're factoring in, all the things that Kyle and Garrett talk about all the time, that we are always fascinated with, digging deeper. What could I have done from a gameplay level, but also in the moment of like, oh my gosh, what am I aware of? What am I doing? How can I? All of that stuff is the stuff, right? And it only works until we get to, you know, our fabled AI future. It only works with human beings. It only works because I know that you know that I know that you know that I'm going to do that. So I'm not going to do that. And that to me is the joy.
I mean, do either one of you play things like Planet Coaster or Sim City games?
Yes. Play a lot of City Skylines because it wasn't ruined. And Civilization. Civilization is my go-to. I would like 6 hours of my life to just be forfeit. That's my go-to game.
That's a great one. That's a great example. You're working hard, and barbarians are at your gate, and it's this thrilling nonstop game. But suddenly you take over that one town, and your economy is absolutely amazing. And my brain goes, I am so darn bored.
No, you're
I
absolutely
do the
right.
same thing with tower defenses when I get too far along, or I become OP in Dragon Age because things don't scale up with me, and I get bored.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's the variance. It's the variance that comes with playing against other human beings, and and while that's something that can be experienced in a 1v1 scenario like StarCraft or Hearthstone, for me, I don't know. I've always found a team competition a little more engaging. I don't know why. Maybe it's the feeling that it's not all on you, so you have a little bit of a mental out if things do go south, that it's easy to to cast the blame, which there's probably a whole nother discussion there about why people tilt in the first place.
Well, and that's important to have that discussion because you have to find an answer. And our brains work in such a way that if there is a hole, it won't stop thinking about it until it's filled that void. And this is actually something called, and it's debated, of course, because psychology is really, well, complicated. But Lewin's field theory is this idea that a task that has been started has stress, tension put on it, a weight in your mind. And rhythmically throughout the day, your brain will say, hey, remember that thing you lost? Still haven't figured out why you lost yet. Or, hey, remember that thing you were building? You should do that. And it keeps reminding you over again until you solve that. And you and I got in a situation today where you wanted to know what you could have done better on Ariel. And my first reaction was, this isn't a game to analyze because our variant could have gone taunt. He went fury. So a lot of this just gets thrown out the window. So we have to rewind all the way back to that part where you overextended and died. In the 10-minute mark, because everything after that point started the snowball, but really the variant is what caused the issue. But that is now an answer, and you overextend it, and now you can live with that fact. And I don't remember if you overextend. I'm just using that example, but
I probably did. You
can embody that and find an answer and calm down rather than this very real spiral that I call it, this tension in your chest that's just going to build and get worse. And if you are having difficulty with, maybe road rage or gaming rage, one of the things you can do instantly that's really helps a lot is find a teammate to play with, or even someone who doesn't even know the game, and have them repeat back to you what you say. All Genjis are trash. And they go, yep, all Genjis are trash. The second you hear back to you, you're like, well, no, of course, man, there's those pro Genjis that are great. And yeah, Genji's a decent character. But you know what? All variants, they stink. Yep. Well, not all variants. And like immediately, don't say, it is what it is to a person who's raging. That's horrible. Give them exactly back what they said and let them listen to it. And they go, yeah, I sound like an idiot.
Providing they're open to that line of comeuppance.
Right. This would be an agreement that you and your friend together agree on after a game when you're analyzing things and you're spiraling together, getting upset to get you out of that hole.
This is the little sister rule, right? I know you are, but what am I? I know you are, but what am I?
That's not helping anybody.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. But I thought this was a cool question to be posed by Brenton this morning when I read it. And now I think it's the most perfect way to pull ourselves up and out of this funk, because we are going to wake up tomorrow and play more heroes. Heck, we're going to do it tonight with our patrons, and we'll probably lose because they always kick our butts. But at the end of the day, I think all of us here, we've all raged, we've all had debilitating losses, but we keep coming back to the game. You have your bad days, you have your good days. You need both, though, to keep it interesting.
Well, this is one of those games that come along very rarely for me, where when I win, I just want to play one more because I want to have that feeling again. And when I lose, I just want to play one more so I can redeem that loss. So it's a little bit scary because there's no out to that loop.
Yep. No, there's really not. And it could continue itself forever, although it would get boring if one or either outcome happened too many times in sequence. If you won 20 games in a row, I think it'd start to get bored.
Yeah. I'm willing to give that a shot. I'm willing to find out.
I'd be so bored and flat, guys.
All right. Obviously, there's exceptions to the rule, but I think over time, eventually, if you just win too much, you're just the Highlander. It's like, is no one out there a worthy enough challenge? Like, granted, most of us are never going to get to that point, but it's possible. And like I said, it's the ebb and flow, the back and forth, the win and the loss is what I think keeps coming back, and also is what keeps certain people away from these type of games in the first place. I have a lot of friends who play Hearthstone or play World of Warcraft or Smash Brothers or something, and there's something specifically about an isometric PvP game. It just scares them away, and I think that's fine too. It's not going to be for everybody, but if it has its hooks in you, I truly believe this is why. It's just competition in general.
Well, there's a dark side to all this that we don't necessarily have to get into, but sometimes I worry about the fact that it's this weird sort of gambler's addiction that I've stirred in myself a little bit, because I'm not gambling money, but I am gambling those precious ranked points, and I just need to get another hit of that dopamine shot of gambling my sweet ranked points, you know.
I think that you're a great person to have this conversation with, because you have done video game journalism for so long. I mean, you've been through all these reports of, you know, people playing themselves to death even, or exactly that MMOs are gambling machines, and that the young people of America are being hoodwinked underground like Dungeons and Dragons in the 60s. It feels insane, but it is happening out there.
Yeah, and I'm not one to be an alarmist or, you know, say video games are bad, but there's a dark side to everything, right? And I think that myself and a lot of people probably listening to this aren't exactly taking this in moderation. It's something that can be compulsive, and those things I find I have to keep myself in check about a little bit. It's nice to have a family and to have other interests in life to kind of keep those things in check a little bit. But, you know, he even brings up, Brenton in his email even brings up, like, is it loot boxes or is it some carrot? And I think all those things do give you a little dopamine hit. You know, there's that thing glowed and exploded, and that felt good, and I won, and I was MVP. That feels good. And all those things are designed to make you feel good, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you can get a little addicted to those feelings too. So I don't know. I try to take everything with a little bit of a grain of salt too. And as much fun as I'm having, and there's nothing wrong with that, I also sometimes go, oh man, I stayed up until 2:00 because I needed to get a win. That's not good.
Would you be up for Nintendo Wiiing up the place a bit? And it's like, you've been playing for 5 hours. How about a break and like a nice picture of outside? Or your win rate with Zool is 80%. Maybe move on to him.
I like that second one where it's like, you need a win to go to bed. Why don't you play a little Vala?
Right.
You know.
I think this is all fascinating. This is all absolutely fascinating. Yeah, obviously everything in moderation. I always like countering with, there are way worse things you could be addicted to if you're actually legitimately addicted to this, by the way.
Oh, 100% agree. I mean, 100% agree. But, you know, there is unhealthy compulsion in even things that aren't necessarily unhealthy in and of themselves.
100%. I definitely go through periods where I kind of have to look in the mirror. I'm like, wow, I played too many games, way too much in a row. It's like I saw my wife just for dinner, and then I was gone again.
Yeah.
And then that's when it's nice to set a couple nights aside, find something good to binge on the old television, and spend some time with the people that you love. Don't forget to do that too.
Yeah,
but
that's when I'm like, honey, I'll be into bed in a second. I just want to play one game. And then 3 hours later, I'm like, okay, what time is it? Oh, God. Oh, boy. Yeah.
My excuse is always, she's probably asleep already, so it doesn't really matter. So anyway, Brenton, I'm glad you are one of us. And thank you for letting us, giving us some fuel to head down a kind of psychological road, which I always enjoyed doing. And we haven't had a chance to do on the show in a while. Now let's round this episode out with an email and call it a show.
Darkness stopped calling.
Does anyone else hear that buzzing?
Hold on. Darkness just texted me.
Just want to remind you, itncast@gmail.com. That's the place to send your emails. Paul writes in and says, I am getting back into Heroes after a 2-year hiatus. I've been playing Quick Match and mainly trying to find which heroes I enjoy / mesh with. After almost 2 months back, I have finally found my niche, ranged assassins. I met the Hero League requirements, so I thought I would hop in solo queue and try it out. First game I played Grey Main. We won. Life is good. Second game, I am last pick and forced to fill in with a melee based on my team's chat. Now I am not as good on melee, but I wanted to keep the good vibes on the team. I picked one of the few melee I have past level 5 that wasn't a tank, Kerrigan. After I locked in, I get flamed that she is a tier 3 hero. I'm so dumb. Stuff like that. Whatever, best put forward. Let's have a good game. I like your mindset, Paul. I should also note our draft started with our team first pick being Tyrande, and the guy saying he's not healing anyone else but himself will still need a support. I would argue would still need a support anyway because Tyrande heals are pathetic to begin with, but it's nice that this guy is being upfront about his selfishness. Anyway, Paul continues, the game goes south fairly quickly and the other team's Illidan is crushing our team. I don't feel like I was doing well on Kerrigan either. Bottom line is, I understand I can't always play my specialty role / heroes, and will need to fill from time to time. How many other heroes should I have that I am serviceable at that aren't my mains? Like 2 or 3 of each type? Being serviceable at 9 or 12 heroes while still maining a few seems a bit daunting. And I think Paul's right. I think, especially if you're coming back after a break, even 2 months, that's not that much time unless you're playing to a level where I think Jeff might say, hey, man, maybe take a step back. But no, I think I think 9. I think that's a solid number to aim for. 12, too much work to give yourself. But yeah, the thing is Kyle, I think you and I kind of come to, and as much as we both enjoy playing them, I think specialists overall, if all you're trying to do is fill roles and make a good composition, you could probably skip specialists.
At the moment, yeah. And even with a Nazebo, you're probably going to confuse the team in a lot of ways because they'll still want that Jaina, that Kael'thas. And if you're a Nazebo guy, you probably have been around town a few times. You've got some other heroes going for you. I am curious about the panic pick Kerrigan. And I totally get it. Like, we've all been there in the past. Thralls as well, maybe even Ragnaros. People like to say, let's get a melee champ. And they want that melee damage. And I'm not entirely sure still what they really want. Do they want Peels? In which case, that's a much better thing for the Vala to say. I would rather have Peels and someone in front of me. Cool. Then we can start working. So always taking that easier approach. And what is the thing that you specialize in? Kerrigan specializes in killing people in a rather creative way, much like Alarak. Are you a creative and well-executed player? Perhaps not in those 2 hero regards, so pick that next thing.
Yeah. I mean, do you want to keep going down the melee rabbit hole? Because my answer is usually Sonya. It's like, I want damage and melee. It's like, well, I want a Sonya personally.
Right. If we could all pick every hero in the world, every hero would have, 2 roles. And Sonya, you're saying, I want frontline sustained healing for myself and a bruiser, but I also need to take merc camps. And I'm marrying those 2 ideas. Or you can say, I want to do that frontline bruiser thing. I need some decent damage, maybe some lane clear, but I got to bust tanks, Leoric. And that is amazing. But both those heroes can have that level of expertise that really performs on the field. Instead of getting good at either one of those, depending on your league, it's much better right now to say, let's do the tier 1 here. What the chat that got mad at him for was correct about. Granted, he's saying that Tyrande was yelling at him, so the whole conversation seems a little mute. But, Diablo, Anubarak, Vala, did people want damage? Did they want zone? What was it they actually wanted? And they were probably confused about what they wanted because they didn't have the language to tell you. They didn't have the expertise to express what they needed.
Right, they probably didn't know. They wanted to see... They wanted to see something that made them feel comfortable, something that on a tier list that some other person out there has sat up in, they're on their soapbox yelling, this is the correct answer. They wanted to see what they thought was the correct answer, but they don't actually know why it's the correct answer or how else to fill that void. So they weren't going to tell you, oh, we need peels, or we need self-healing, or we need merc capability. They just yelled melee, and you just went for whatever was over level 5 that wasn't a tank.
Exactly. And you're not the good one. And that's the saddest part about it. I love Gazlo. I'm not the good Gazlo. I think I am. But the other Gazlos have already made the field for me. They made the bed, and I have to sleep in that same bed, too. People have seen Gazlos lose. Jeff here hates all Novas. It's just, it's his experience. And that's mine with Kharazim, right? And that's why I think when we come to these clashes, these esports events, we go through the number of heroes and name the heroes who weren't picked, because that's really important. They didn't see them on the screen, and in people's heads, they don't exist in game. They don't have a role anymore. They're not as good. And that's going to have a huge effect. By picking Vala, Ariel as your first 2 picks, you're saying everything's already here to make a team around. If you want to get weird, that's your problem. But everything to make a win has been drafted.
Yeah. So So to answer the last part of his question, how many heroes do you think Paul here, or most players returning to the game, or trying to? We get this question a lot. How many heroes should you know how to play?
I think you should have your core 3. You should always know exactly what you're maining, even if it's one trick pony. Always get in that draft and show the first thing. Build a web is always really useful. Right now, I love auto attacker. So Vala, I lose Vala. Great. No one's going to freak out when Vala's banned or taken on the enemy side or even picked earlier, and I take my Vala and move it on to Zul'jin. There's a 1-to-1 that happened in people's heads, and they go, he likes auto attacking. Great. The worst thing is that guy who shows Lich King loses Lich King and then picks Butcher, and you just go, no, he's not a Butcher. He's an Arthas. He's ruined. He's a horrible player. Through those webs, you can find a pretty large, everyone's sporting about 9 heroes. But there should always be your favorites at the top, and you need to be able to answer that question.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure, like you guys, I know how to play well over 12 heroes, but not at any given time, right? At any given week, I'm focusing on about 3 or 4, and those are sort of my top in the mix heroes. So I don't think there's anybody that is, has 12 heroes at the ready that are all primed. You got to focus on what's in your rotation at that given time, but you do kind of have a responsibility if you're going into ranked to be able to fill the big roles, the big needed things that a team might want. Got to be able to play a healer. You got to be able to play a tank. You got to be able to play an assassin. There's, you have to have those big pillars because those are going to be needed, and there's going to be a time when you come into a draft and your team's being obstinate and you're the only guy left to fill those roles. So do it, but also don't feel pressured to pick some very specific thing if you're not primed on that character.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I would say. If a healer is if a healer is missing, fill that role. If a tank is missing, fill that role. If you're up for damage and you don't know how to play the type of damage that they're asking you to fulfill, don't fulfill that. Just say, sorry guys, this isn't my role. I always go with, you don't want me on X. That's the one that I always say, and it works most of the time. It's like, and Kerrigan's one of them. You don't want me on Kerrigan. You do not want me on Kerrigan. Just like how I always tell Kyle, you don't want me top lane solo on a 2-lane map. You don't want it. You don't want it, except if it's Hanamura and I get to face off against an Asmodean. But that's not a thing I have to worry about anymore. No, thank you for your email, Paul. Thank you, everyone, for your emails. I think we're going to wrap it up here. Thank you to our Patreon producers, Theclan H, Cheesy Bob, and Mythdoll. We have Into the Nexus swag, everyone. You can go to shirts.amove.tv if you want to get yourself an Into the Nexus movie poster t-shirt. It's got fake credits on it. It's fantastic. Go check it out. We also have glassware available over at etch.amove.tv. Get a coffee mug, pint glass, stuff like that. The Twitter for the show is at ITNcast, and we can always be found Thursday nights right here on twitch.tv/AmoveTV at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We also have to thank Gorath from The Core Show, who made our fantastic intro music, and BrianGriffithMusic.com, who made our outro music. Jeff, as our returning guest host this week, you are up first. You're doing all sorts of things on the podcast landscape and elsewhere. Where can folks find you?
I do, yes. I have quite a few shows if you're interested. I can be followed on Twitter at Jeff Kanata, which is spelled with 2 N's and 1 T. I have a daily video game show. It's quick hits, about 10 minutes a day. It's on iTunes and Google Play Music. It's called Newest, Latest, Best. You can search for it there or go to anchor.fm/NLB. And I also have a weekly video game show, a long-form video game show called DLC that you can find at 5by5.tv/DLC. Have other shows as well, but those are the video game ones.
Rad. Everyone definitely go check that out. As I mentioned earlier in the show, big fan of DLC. Both Kyle and I have guested on it before. Yes. So I would recommend you check it out. Kyle, how about yourself?
This week, let's talk about coaching again. KyleFergusson.com if you're interested in Heroes of the Storm coaching. That website will be going down until after BlizzCon in the middle of September. So if you've been interested in getting coaching from me, do that now. Otherwise, I'll see you in the holidays and on the other side of that coaching project I've been talking about.
Very cool. I'm excited about that, dude.
There's a lot of room for just a lot of really, really general information. You have to start at level 1 somewhere.
I think you have a good idea. I'm glad you're putting in the work to categorize all that stuff. Folks, I'm all over the place as well. amove.tv is the website. That is amove.tv, with plenty of other podcasts for you to listen to if you can stand the sound of my voice. I am on Twitter at Garrett Art, 2 R's and 2 T's in Garrett, if you want to follow me on there. And if I'm going to plug one specific podcast this week, I'll make it Embrace the Spoilers, where you can go and listen to Jocelyn Moffat and myself spoiling the living hell out of Season 7 of Game of Thrones. And then we're going to move on to some bonus content courtesy of our Kickstarter backers. So go check that out. Embrace the Spoilers, wherever podcasts can be found. And that's going to do it. Thank you all for tuning in. Jeff Kanata, thank you for returning as your monthly guest host duties call for every month.
Absolutely my pleasure, fellas. I'm a huge fan of the show. I'm so grateful for the patrons making this possible and bringing me on the show.
We thank them as well. Thank you all for listening again. Until next time, good luck, have fun, and maybe mercs aren't the best decision.
Take care.
Stay positive, don't die.